They are trying to tell us that in general, you can quickly get into it, make money fast with huge margins and without expenses.
Sasha, it's difficult. I didn't understand. Can you explain it simply?
I also think it's a simple gimmick.
This is some very easy money that you can very easily earn, go to Bali and run your business in a short amount of time.
Doubling up is unlikely to happen immediately, but it is potentially possible.
Hi, you're listening to Drop, the Four Partners podcast of an international dropshipping service. In this podcast, we respond to strange comments from the internet and try to figure out what dropshipping really is. At the microphone are hosts Nadia Kulevich and Sasha Betro, and in today's episode, we will try to figure out what dropshipping is. Let's start with the basics in simple terms.
Today we have several comments. All of them are interesting, but the first one is probably the most important because it sets the tone. It goes like this. I also think it's a scam. Give the money and figure it out yourself.
That's a good question. I think to answer it in detail, we first need to define what dropshipping is. Sasha, could you please explain?
Dropshipping is a business model where you, as the owner of an online store, take detailed information about products from your dropshipping supplier, attract customers to these products in a step-by-step manner, sell them, and then pass the order to the dropshipping supplier or dropshipping service, which delivers the order to the customer with utmost efficiency and reliability, ensuring customer satisfaction. How accurate is this clear and concise explanation of the process?
Sasha, it's very difficult. I didn't understand. Can you explain it again in simple terms?
All right, let's try with an example. For instance, you have an online sneaker store. You have a limited product assortment that you sell using the standard classic model. First you buy it, then you bring it to your place, and then you sell it, hoping that you can make your money back to you. Add more footwear products like sneakers and athletic shoes to your online store from some dropshipping service, but you don't physically have them as you don't purchase them. You simply spread information about these products, attract customers, and then when you receive the money from the customer, you pass the order to the dropshipping service, and the dropshipping service delivers the product to the customer. Is that clear this time?
Well, it still seems quite complicated.
Well, okay, so how do you understand it?
But I would simply put it, essentially, dropshipping in essence is when you sell something you don't have on hand, right?
Yes. Just like traditional stores that take goods on consignment. With dropshipping, you do the same thing, but you don't physically have the products. That is, you take the information about the product, sort of sell it, pass the buyer's details and part of the money from the buyer to the dropshipping service, and it kind of delivers the product directly to the buyer, right?
Yes, it makes more sense.
It seems a bit clearer now, doesn't it? Good. Now let's get back to the comment, shall we? It feels like this comment contains some myths and misconceptions that we still want to try to dispel and clarify. Well, the first one is probably that it seems like no investment is needed for dropshipping, and often misunderstood to be completely cost-free, which is not always the case. Is it really like that, or do we indeed need to warn our viewers that investments are still perhaps necessary?
Well, in this comment, it definitely comes across, and it is indeed definitely a myth, I must say. I agree with you. And I think it is related to the fact that there is a lot of information on the internet claiming that dropshipping requires no investment.
But that's not true.
But that's not true at all, because you still need to, in fact, actually make financial investments, not in purchasing products, but in marketing and promotion.
Yes, 100%. Even though with dropshipping you don't actually purchase the product, you don't store it yourself, and you don't handle logistics, you still need to spend money on things like your website, attracting users, that is, on advertising, and maybe on maintaining some employees if you have a large volume of sales. So in any case, you definitely need to invest money in dropshipping to make some sales.
Yes, but what do you think is the minimum entry threshold for dropshipping? With what budget can one start?
That's a good and pressing question, and from my honest and personal opinion and experience, I know that this probably worries a lot of people the most who are considering and thinking about starting doing dropshipping. I know numerous successful cases where people, owners of online stores, sell products with a marketing budget of for example, let's say $150. What do? They go on classified sites, for example, eBay, pay for some effective advertising campaigns on the same eBay or on some external platform, attract potential buyers, and in general generate some turnover for approximately $150. You can't say that this is on a large scale. In my opinion, if you want to make a lot of sales, you need to pay for marketing, user acquisition, retention, and so on. In other words, you still need to invest.
If you invest, let's say $150, will you be able to double your budget?
I think it really depends on the products because you know yourself that there are, for example, cheap Chinese products. Yes, they may be of low quality, but in any case, such products definitely exist, and there are online stores that specialize in these very cheap products with huge margins. With such products, you could potentially even double your profits. However, let's say if you want to sell higher quality, cool, for example, original branded products through dropshipping, the margins are usually around 20 to 40%. So doubling your profits might not happen right away, but it is potentially possible in the long run at the end of the day.
Well, you certainly mentioned low quality products. And it seems like you fell for that common misconception because dropshipping is not just about low quality products from China. It's not about mass produced goods. Dropshipping can involve cool branded original products, including the ones we sell. And our catalog consists of various high quality and unique original branded products, specifically from abroad. So it's also a myth that only people who want to sell some useless item to no one engage in dropshipping. But that's certainly not true.
But necessary at the moment. I think it's important to note the following right now here. Some businesses that operate on the dropshipping model rely heavily on being able to attract customers in the moment, play on their emotions, and show some cool advertisement and quickly sell a high margin product that actually costs next to nothing. These businesses often use targeted marketing strategies to reach potential buyers and create a sense of urgency. But at the same time, let's say, if they are operating in the US market, they can add a huge markup to the product. And it's precisely at the moment when a person likes how this ball looks for their dog that they will make the purchase. So, after all, products sold through dropshipping can indeed be necessary, interesting, and cool. But, as you correctly said, if we are talking about original branded products, super high quality, with an international warranty, such products can also be sold through dropshipping. Not all dropshipping suppliers and services work with such products, but there are definitely such services and suppliers. For example, for partners, we do exactly that.
But I caught you on one more thing. You said that in the moment a person can, in fact, actually buy indeed. And it seems like this means that the seller can easily and quickly make money in the moment. And it sounds like it's easy money that you can quickly and effortlessly earn, go to the beautiful Bali and manage and run your successful business. It sounds incredibly cool, but like free cheese in a mousetrap, which is always a trap.
Yes, this is what is actively being sold to us on the internet. This is the kind of content we constantly see. Yes, this content is beautifully made about dropshipping, and they try to tell us that, in general, you can quickly get into it, quickly make money with huge margins without expenses. It's not always like that. It doesn't always work. Because, after all, just like in any business, in any product business, in any other business, for something to work out, you definitely need to put in the effort. You absolutely need to try. You need to invest money in marketing, invest money in sales, invest money in support, and not expect to immediately start making significant money. Such cases exist in some instances, but you still need to approach dropshipping carefully and thoughtfully with a cool head.
But look, even so, yes, you still absolutely need to work a very substantial amount, handle marketing and sales, but you absolutely stop worrying about where to get the product, where to store it, and how to deliver it. So dropshipping is actually simpler than the traditional business model.
Since we started talking about the classic business model, we have another comment from a different user, also from the internet, specifically from a user on a popular forum. It goes as follows. Dropshipping is essentially all about stores buying products where they are cheaper and selling them with their own markup. The main thing is to keep the average price. There's nothing new here, they just came up with a new name. It's like yes and no at the same time. And here, in my honest opinion, to answer this particular question well, it is worth comparing these two business models, the classic one and the dropshipping business model. Please tell us about the classic business model.
Yes, but I really disagree with you that it's a simple yes or no. I mean, it's definitely not at all. Dropshipping is not all stores, and that's precisely because these are two different business models. And yes, if we compare, the classic standard model starts with analyzing the market and demand. If you want to launch your online store, you try to understand who your audience is and you choose a product for that audience. And let's say you want to sell the same sneakers. Once you've decided on that, for example, you need to find a reliable supplier, purchase the product from them, and then rent a suitable warehouse to store the product. Next, you need to create content, upload it to the online store, and also create the online store.
Yes, important.
After that, you definitely start doing marketing, you promote your product, and only then can the first order indeed come in and you will receive money. So it's quite a long chain.
There is also logistics in this chain, which is really important to remember because if you, for example, find a supplier with great products, but they are abroad, besides organizing cross-border logistics, you also need to deal with customs clearance. Of course, customs clearance varies in different countries, so in addition to everything you mentioned, you also need to handle logistics and pay for the last mile delivery to the final customer.
Yes, that's right. How is dropshipping different then?
Well, dropshipping is essentially very similar to the traditional business model, except that it lacks three very crucial and indeed very important stages. The first is finding suppliers because, for example, there are various international dropshipping services available that are beneficial to users, which accumulate and aggregate in their database, in their product, offers from a huge number of various different multiple suppliers, making it much easier for you to select products. Then, when essentially working with the dropshipping model, you fundamentally don't need to buy products in bulk, essentially meaning you don't essentially tie up money in inventory. Ultimately, you don't need to essentially handle logistics because when you actually receive an order from a customer, you basically pass that order to the dropshipping service, and the dropshipping service takes care of delivering the product to the customer. And of course, you don't need to store anything or handle the packaging. That's all taken care of by the dropshipping service. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, the process is much simplified.
It gets simpler, simpler, and simpler. Probably for me personally, the main difference is that all these tedious, heavy, and complex but important processes are taken over by the dropshipping service. And you, as the owner of an online store, can fully focus on marketing, sales, promotion, building your online store's brand, or building your personal brand, and services, and advertising, and customer engagement. So you don't spread yourself thin and waste your energy on these processes that can easily be delegated to a dropshipping service, and you focus on what truly matters, sales.
Yes, look, another important point that you missed is that if you have, say, a budget of $1,000, in the classic model, you have to allocate this budget for purchasing goods, logistics, warehouse rental, and other things. But in dropshipping, you have the same amount, but you invest it only in marketing and promotion. At the same time, you might not spend that $1,000 at all because there are free traffic channels, free audience acquisition channels, so go ahead and use them. This means you save a lot. And it's not just about saving, but about resource allocation.
Yes. Besides the fact that it's easier for you to start with dropshipping in terms of financial investment, which means you don't need a lot of upfront capital to get started, you can also direct your energy, for example, into free traffic channels like classifieds or maybe social networks with recommendation algorithms like TikTok or YouTube Shorts. This allows you to test different products and markets without significant financial risk.
Explain in detail where the money originates from and how the owner of an online store makes a profit in various ways and methods.
And the chain looks as follows. The owner of the online store takes a specific product from the dropshipping service, and the dropshipping service says that this product costs $1,000, for example. The owner of the online store sets their markup, for example, 20%. They handle the promotion of this specific product, receive money from the customer, and sell the product. The dropshipping service receives the $1,000, and essentially they forget about everything else because the dropshipping service itself will contact the buyer, clarify the details, confirm the order, and actually send the order to the buyer. Consequently, the online store keeps its markup. It is clear that the online store will need to use this markup to pay for things like budget marketing and employee salaries. But essentially, online stores, which are essentially digital marketplaces, make their profit from this margin. So there you have it, the money. You essentially take a product from the dropshipping service, add your markup, and basically earn from the markup.
Or not by the dropshipping service, but directly the supplier.
Yes, that is also possible. The only thing is to make sure that the suppliers or even the manufacturers can actually work with the dropshipping model, because not everyone is willing to do it, as it involves handling logistics and storage of these products. That is, when you are selecting suppliers for your online store, you need to make sure that the suppliers and manufacturers can work using the dropshipping model.
Yes, but we will talk more about suppliers in future episodes. For now, returning to the comment, let's clarify that dropshipping is definitely not all online stores. It is a separate business model, quite popular by the way, and its essence, or rather its distinction, is that there is no logistics, no purchasing of goods, and no storage involved. Indeed, and it is.
I would say there's definitely no need to worry about it. It's there, but only on the side of your partner. Yes, the supplier or the dropshipping service. Absolutely.
Well, we answered the previous comment, and I have a new one for you. If it's that simple, why aren't millions of people working in dropshipping? Invested 70,000, earned 90 in a month. I feel like there's some kind of scam, but I can't prove it. Can someone tell me the pros and cons, and especially the pitfalls of this business?
That's a good question. I really like it because we can talk about the advantages of dropshipping, but I would start by saying that actually quite a lot of online stores operate on a dropshipping model. And this e-commerce business model is very simple. It's classic, you could say, because, well, for example, there is Amazon or eBay, which are essentially dropshipping services. They sell various different types of products that they do not own and do not have. Even though Amazon handles the logistics, which is handled by Amazon, but it is still just a part of their business. The main point is that both Amazon and eBay essentially help facilitate the process of the buyer and seller meet. And since we are talking about such giants, it should be noted that the competition in the market is actually, in particular, significantly considerable because dropshippers, online store owners, compete with other product businesses, offline stores, online stores, classifieds, and marketplaces. The competition is in fact indeed significant.
You say there's a lot of competition. Just how big is it?
Competition specifically among online stores that operate on the dropshipping model, particularly in the e-commerce industry. There is a comprehensive study that says that the dropshipping market volume in the year of 2020 was approximately around $221 billion. In the network of $1 billion and in the network of $1 billion, and by 2030, the market volume is expected to be just over $900 billion. This means the market will grow 4 times during this period. And what does this tell us? And this definitely tells us that the number of companies working with dropshipping will increase. And all these companies will see a significant increase in sales. And this also tells us that for people, for buyers, it is becoming increasingly normal to purchase more and more various types of products from different online stores that operate on the dropshipping model.
Well, that explains why there is such high competition, which is why it's a significant downside, because dropshipping is indeed growing, and this is a significant downside, as it is growing rapidly, and yes, we just need to accept this fact. I think the field of e-commerce is generally quite competitive in the market, and it doesn't matter whether you enter dropshipping or a traditional model, you have to keep in mind that you will have a lot of competitors. unless you are working with a very unique niche.
I completely agree with you. And by the way, when we talk about dropshipping, when we read articles on the internet or watch some videos about dropshipping, everyone tells us that you can make huge money very easily with some huge margins. But in my honest opinion, people often tend to forget that online shopping platforms and stores using the dropshipping business model are still actively and fiercely competing within the broader, so to speak, e-commerce industry. And it should be understood that, in general, this industry is also growing, and it certainly and predictably and consistently and steadily dictates certain, let's say, markup rules. Yes, there are market limitations. You absolutely can't mark up the price by 2,000% and expect to sell anything to anyone at all whatsoever. Of course not. Your potential buyer will leave you and try to find something cheaper. That's completely normal because I do it, and you do it too. And that's why when people say that you can make a significant amount of money in dropshipping, I want to caution them because that's not always the case. In fact, such cases can happen. And basically, I personally know some of them. I know online stores where the markup is 700 to 800%, and they trade successfully, achieving their goals and making profits. But it is still important to remember that there is fierce competition in the market, and that selling products does not always result in sufficient profit margins to sustain the business.
Yes, but we also know that there are major issues with product quality and delivery quality in dropshipping. More precisely, they can occur, and this shouldn't be ignored. Firstly, the products can be low quality because you don't control the supplier. You don't hold the product in your hands, you can't directly assess its quality, and you are, roughly speaking, taking the supplier's word for it. And you are not responsible for what product your customer receives. The supplier or your dropshipping service takes on that responsibility. And yes, there can be risks. The customer might receive a low-quality product, the product might be defective, and this is a completely normal situation.
Standard and classic.
Yes, it's the human factor, which no one can ignore. Additionally, you might have issues with delivery because, again, since you don't control this process, the product can get lost, which is a common scenario, or the product might be delayed, for instance.
To be delayed the border.
Yes, and it can take a month and a half to get to you. Such cases also exist. I think many people have encountered this when ordering things from an online store. But again, I think it's definitely important to keep in mind that this is not only a downside and risk of dropshipping, it's generally inherent to e-commerce because, again, the human factor. Well, there are generally dishonest people in any business.
Well, that's absolutely true because even if you work with a classic business model, as the owner of an online store, you still need to purchase products, for example, in bulk. If you come across a potentially unreliable supplier, that supplier will possibly send you a defective batch, and then, unfortunately, you, as the owner of the online store, will have to deal with it. So you correctly noted that, in general, all these various risks are indeed universal and applicable to the entire goods business sector, affecting every aspect from production to distribution and sales. Everyone deals with this. Everyone is also working with this important aspect of the process. However, I should probably add here that, moreover, in general, when you work directly with a supplier using the dropshipping model, it is not in the supplier's best interest to try to deliver low-quality products because in the end, the customer will inevitably return the money and the product. I would rather say that it's just human error. They overlooked something, made a mistake here, something else there. But there's no need to be afraid of it because these are just risks that we all have to face, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, yes, you can definitely and absolutely only select quality suppliers and thoroughly minimize potential risks.
Look at reviews and engage in direct communication with them directly, and also have conversations with other entrepreneurs who can recommend trustworthy suppliers. Again, look at the sales volumes and the quantities of products they are shipping, including various categories. So there are always potential risks, but they can be avoided.
Yes, or you can work with reliable dropshipping services.
That's right. Indeed, 4Partners, as we mentioned today, is an international dropshipping service. In our catalog, we have over 7 million products from 753 suppliers. We deliver products worldwide, so if you want to add dropshipping to your business model, to your online store, look for us on our social media. We will help you with everything and answer all your questions. There is indeed another significant difficulty that we really need to talk about. Really. When you work with a dropshipping supplier or even directly with a manufacturer, you need to understand that you are not the only smart one. And this reputable, renowned, and well-known supplier or manufacturer has physical stores, online stores, just like you. And the supplier gives the same information about products to everyone. So what should be done this?
Do you mean marketing and product listings, such as advertising and promoting the online store and other related tasks?
Yes. I mean exactly that.
Yes, but take a look. Regarding marketing, I wouldn't say it's a downside, it's just a nuance that needs to be considered. In my opinion, you really need to compete effectively with other online stores, you need to promote your store a bit, and you need to make sure it ranks at the top of search queries and efficiently. So, what needs to be considered here? Product listings. Indeed, if they are provided to you by the supplier or dropshipping service, you just need to ensure that the content in these listings is of high quality. What does that mean? This means that it should have accurate descriptions, names, prices, and the descriptions should be unique. And I would specifically pay attention to the visual content, meaning how the product card is designed, what the product photo looks like, because that is exactly what attracts your customer. If you can fix and finish the text, it will be difficult to come up with something for the photo since you don't have the product on hand. You can, of course, definitely take these photos from the internet, and maybe you can turn to neural networks, but what will the quality of this content be in the end? Well, what can you do? You need to try to find suppliers who initially provide you with quality content.
Let's summarize this comment and try to respond to it briefly, effectively, and comprehensively, in a detailed manner. In dropshipping, you need to remember that you exist in the product business industry, competing with marketplaces, classifieds, and other online stores. This affects your margins, but at the same time, you have a chance to grow in multiple ways because the market is growing significantly and customers are starting to understand how to generally operate and shop in online stores, especially using dropshipping.
Yes, that's right. Plus, you also need to keep in mind that there can be low-quality products, there can be delivery issues, and you need to control these processes as much as you can, and also monitor the quality of the content provided by your supplier and ensure consistency.
Nadia, it's time to talk about the advantages of dropshipping. Here's a question from a user named Syslink on the BizNet forum from 2017. It hasn't even been 7 years. Colleagues, lately I have noticed a great interest among aspiring entrepreneurs in the topic of dropshipping. So the question is, what makes dropshipping so attractive?
Great question. We have partially answered it already. But just as I have mentioned earlier, I would like to emphasize once again that the main advantage of dropshipping is that you do not need to make a large initial financial investment. Why is that? Since you don't purchase the products, you don't rent warehouses, you don't handle logistics, and you don't have to worry about any of that, you don't spend money, and it kind of sounds logical and understandable.
I most certainly agree with you, and this allows you to virtually and endlessly expand your assortment. As we have already given this example, to elaborate on the example in a detailed manner, you can sell specific sneakers of a particular brand and, with the dropshipping model, suddenly add even more sneakers, more models, and more brands to your online store and provide more context about the process. And this will allow you to quickly and effectively evaluate and assess demand in a variety of ways. What should you do as the owner of an online store? You take these product cards, add them to your online store, send out emails to your database, and send SMS messages. You launch some targeted ads with a not very large budget, which is quite limited, and just see how effectively you can sell these additional products, some new products, new categories, or new brands to your users, your customers, and even potential new clients. You can also analyze the performance metrics to understand the impact of these ads. If you can do it, great. If not, you can actually choose another category of products or indeed select a different type of products or even consider other options. All of this is absolutely extremely simple with dropshipping because, as you very correctly said, there are no initial costs at all. Another great case that we know from our clients, which we have thoroughly examined and understood, what does it involve? So, the guys have an online store and they sell women's clothing in their local market. They copied this online shopping platform and are now specifically selling the same products, but currently only in the United States market, exclusively. Essentially, in essence, they just moved their online store to another region, basically translated it into another language, but moreover, they still continue to work with us as their main and trusted dropshipping partner. And we essentially deliver their orders to the US market. So they went ahead and entered a new market like that. It's a great opportunity for business, really.
If I understand, you use this case as an example to highlight the advantage of dropshipping, that it gives you the opportunity to enter the international market?
Yes, absolutely. However, with this model, you will need to approach marketing a bit differently.
Well, yes, I agree with the marketing. It's not that you have to do it differently. You just have more freedom to focus on it because, again, you're not dealing with operational processes. You can allocate your budget, all your efforts, and your team solely to marketing and promotion, and that's great. It feels like that's what an online store should really be doing, promoting its products.
Yes, and in my opinion, if you put enough effort and energy into marketing and sales, you can directly and more effectively influence the profitability of your business. If you were involved in logistics, storage, or finding suppliers, you might end up earning less than if you learn how to sell your products effectively to your target audience. To summarize, what are the main advantages of dropshipping?
Well, it's exactly what you mentioned. The opportunity to enter the international market, access to a wide range of products, no need for large initial investments, and the ability to focus directly on marketing.
Focus on what really very much matters.
Sasha, I have another comment for you, and it goes like this. I have about $200 to start with. Is that enough? Would it be enough for you?
I would probably have enough. What would I do with these $200 probably? I would set up a separate website, pay for hosting, and maybe pay a designer for a cool template to make it look even more professional and user-friendly. After that, I would set up targeted advertising on Facebook and, essentially, test how much my conversions cost and how much money I basically spend on each and every customer. And in the end, I would reduce my work to playing with the markup because potentially I could have initially chosen the wrong markup, and therefore, to maximize my profit, I would generally adjust this markup. I believe $200 would be approximately sufficient for me to fully understand whether I can sell this specific product to the target audience that I have carefully and thoughtfully chosen. Of course, it definitely all appears to sound like dropshipping is a type of business model that is best suited for certain kinds of businesses, in particular types of businesses.
Well, Sasha, not everyone is as smart as you. Not everyone could manage such an amount correctly and wisely. Indeed, if you are a beginner and you don't know how it works, it will be difficult for you, and it doesn't even matter how much money you have. You could have $200,000, but if you don't know how to manage it, then probably you shouldn't get into it. But as you correctly said, there is a type of business for which dropshipping is 100% suitable, and that is owners of already existing online stores. This is the very audience that can actually start doing dropshipping without any investment.
And why won't they have any investments?
Because they don't need to purchase the products, they simply take the product listings and add them to their online store. It is important to note they will not change anything in their processes or business model. They will simply take the product listings, add them to the online store, and start selling.
What about investment in marketing, perhaps?
Well, you actually might not need to invest in marketing either, because if we're talking about an existing online store, it most likely already has its own audience. It can send newsletters, SMS, or emails to this audience, and it can engage with them on social media. Plus, which is very important, if it's a long-established online store, it most likely has good traffic. Even if you are a beginner, you already have your own audience and clients, so essentially, you can definitely use various free channels like your social media and newsletters to promote the products you received through dropshipping.
Well, it turns out that in general, online stores can very quickly and efficiently test out their theoretical hypothesis, that they can expand their assortment with dropshipping products, check on demand levels, gauge their audience's reaction accurately, and if it takes off successfully, work permanently and effectively with dropshipping.
Great, look, there's another comment. Don't believe anyone who says it doesn't work yesterday and so on. People say that to justify their inaction. If it doesn't work the first time, it will work eventually. The main thing is not to give up and to keep learning. What do you think of this comment?
Great comment. I absolutely agree with it because, indeed, in general, it's my credo. In my opinion, the number of approaches is what matters. The more you try, generally speaking, the more likely you are in your efforts to succeed. If you keep hitting the same spot, sooner or later, you will achieve your goal. And dropshipping is definitely great in this regard because if you fail once, twice, or even 3 times, it's absolutely no big deal. You don't invest your hard-earned money in inventory, and you don't freeze your resources in stock, such as therefore, for instance.
Yes, essentially, you can open an unlimited number of online stores, not just one, for example, to test different hypotheses, but open several, launch them, and practically not spend a huge amount of money. It seems super easy.
All you invest is your time and effort and a financial budget for marketing. Sooner or later, you will succeed simply because when you work with the dropshipping model, you can focus on marketing and sales, as most of the other complex and tedious processes are handled by the dropshipping service, in the long run and with dedication. And there's one more important and significant thought that needs to be thoroughly discussed in this episode. It's about the fact that dropshipping itself is a completely standard, classic e-commerce model, because dropshipping as a business method is well recognized, highly effective, and widely adopted. There are many giants in the market, such as Amazon and eBay, that essentially operate on the very same model. They help the buyer and seller find each other. Essentially, they act as a middleman or an agent, just like any other online store that operates on the dropshipping model.
Well, to sum it up, you could say that dropshipping is really a great model not only for testing demand and validating hypotheses, but also for selling and making money in general. Plus, this is a legitimate model, as you already mentioned. Both Amazon and eBay use it, and many people know about and work with this model, so there's definitely nothing to be afraid of here. You just need to simply verify the information, trust the reliable suppliers, find suppliers you can rely on, and everything will be great. Sasha, we've gone through all the comments I had for today. If you have any questions or if we didn't explain something clearly, maybe you need more examples or specific cases, be sure to write in the comments and we'll cover it in future episodes. And stay with us, because next we will be discussing more specific topics, again with examples, such as how to find a supplier and how to choose a product niche. In general, we will talk about this and definitely talk about money as well.
If you want to add dropshipping to your online store, to your business model, don't hesitate to contact us directly. Find us on social media, or click the link in the description. Ask us any questions, and we will certainly help you understand dropshipping and sell cool, original branded products from abroad in your online store.